Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. I was having a conversation with someone a while ago, and it reminded me of a story that my granny told me when I was a teenager. And I thought this would just make a real good story time video to put out here on YouTube. It has a little lesson to it. And I thought that I'd just share it with everybody. I was a teenager and I had discovered young men. And I'd got me a feller, and I thought that he was just it. And it didn't take very long, being teenagers, that he decided the grass was greener on the other side of the fence, took off, broke my heart. And I went to my granny and I told her that he done took off. And she says, "Well, now sit down here and let me tell you a little story." She says, "This is a story about dogs." And I thought, what in the world is she doing telling me a story about dogs, sitting here and my poor heart broke? And she says, "You know, we've always been pretty poor and never could afford to actually go out, and buy some one of them fancy breed dogs. We always had to depend on just mixed breed Heinz 57 type dogs. And she says, generally, one would just always come around to the house and take up. And if you feed it good and you take good care of it, you give it a nice place to sleep, and all that, the dog will stick around for quite a while, and it'll bark when somebody comes around and guard the place and do its duty and be a pretty good little old dog." But now, not all of them are that way. Some of them just come around and eat the food, and first time they see something that sparks them a little bit, they just take off. That dog's gone. She says, so what I learned from that lesson was that some old dogs will come around, and if you like the looks of them and you feed them a little bit and you're taking good care of them, and that old dog runs off, well, what you need to do, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, you go out and you build a higher fence. You open up the gate to the yard, you put out another bowl of food. And before you know it, another old dog is going to come around sniffing that bowl of food. And if you like the looks of him and you think you could give him a good home and think that he'll take up with you, you go out and you close that gate. And she says, this is a lesson to you, and you're going to be learning a lot of lessons as you go through life, but sometimes old dogs just run off. Another old dog's going to come around, and you got to make up your mind whether you think the old dog's worth keeping around or not. Build a higher fence, put out better food. And I said, well, Granny, you've been a widow for a long time, and I don't see no fellers, come around sparking you. And she says, well, there's a reason for that. I don't see no reason that I have to feed an old dog. So there is a little story for you, for your amusement, here on a early Saturday morning. Give you something to chuckle about over the weekend. Sometimes you don't even need to build a fence, put out better food. You're better off without the old dog.